What we need is not more medication, but more education, because the best prescription is knowledge. This is Exposé, coming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria, every Monday on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook simultaneously. I'm the regular host, Tony Akinyemi. Don't forget, what we need is not more medication, but more education, because the best prescription is knowledge. Happy New Year 2023, to God be the glory. We all crossed over into the brand new year, and this is our year of mighty harvest, wonderful harvest, a harvest of miracles, a harvest of blessings, a harvest of testimonies, a harvest of souls into the kingdom of God. Happy New Year. I rejoice with you, with your family, for making it through 2022 and crossing over into 2023. As we begin the year, there are a few tips I'd like to leave with you before we commence our conversation, or rather continue our conversation on female infertility. And I'm particularly praying that this year, many couples that have been believing God for the fruit of the womb will have their babies this year. There are 12 months in a year, and 12 months is just enough for God to answer your prayers in that regard. Between now and December, beginning from September ending into October, into November, into December, it will be baby, 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 baby all the way in the name of Jesus. Baby boys, baby girls, twins and triplets, as God will come through for you in the name of Jesus. He will wipe away your tears. It will fulfill your joy. This year will not only be fruitful for those who are believing God for the fruit of the womb. My prayer is that it will equally be fruitful for everybody, irrespective of the phase of life that you are in. If you are already stopped having children, you've stopped having children, or you're even a grandparent, or whoever you are, you will still be fruitful in your ministry, fruitful in your finances, fruitful in your career, fruitful in your business, fruitful in your life. You will never be barren. You will never be stagnant. You will never be grounded. God will ensure, as you cooperate and collaborate with Him from the beginning to the end of this year, God will ensure that you are fruitful. Glory be to God. So I'll give you a few tips before I continue my conversation on female infertility. Tip number 1, go get your hydrogen water bottle. Tip number 2, go get your blue light blocking glasses. Tip number 3, clean up your diet. All the compromises that you indulged in 2022, don't carry them over into 2023. There is the plus and minus principle I have shared on Exposé. There are things to minus from your life, things to delete, things to avoid, things to eliminate. That's the minus side of things. You indulge in them in 2022, don't continue to indulge in them in 2023, because they can undo you on many fronts. And then there's the plus sign, the things that are beneficial to your health, beneficial to your marriage, beneficial to your life, that you are not doing. You need to start adding them. You need to start including them. You need to start incorporating them. That's the plus side of life. Make sure you bring them on board. You've not been exercising, commence an exercise program and don't fail. Continue. You've not been drinking sufficient amount of water. Begin to do that now. Add that to your regimen. You've not been doing sensible sunshine exposure. Begin to do that right now. You've not been eating fruits and vegetables. Begin to do that right now. You've not been fasting, particularly intermittent fasting. Begin to do that right now. Intermittent fasting is a situation where you eat within a 6 to 8 hour window. Some people say 4 to 8 hour window. And then for 16 to 20 hour window, you stop eating. You drink only water. For example, you can start eating from 11 a.m. till 5 p.m. That's 6-hour window. 11 a.m., between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m., 6 hours, that's when your meals are scattered, essentially 2 meals, one by 11, the other one by 5. And that's it. Then from 5 p.m. till 11 a.m. tomorrow, only water. That is called intermittent fasting. That's very good for your health, okay? Then there is another thing you need to add if you have not been doing it. Annual comprehensive medical checkup. Very, very critical, very important, so that you can catch it in its infancy. If anything is about brewing in your body, don't allow it to grow into a monster before you begin to run from pillar to post to look for solutions. And then if you've not been doing it, there is something else you need to add, and that is annual vacation. Create a long period of time between 2 weeks and 6 weeks to rest, to vacate, and go somewhere and have fun and relax, okay, and wind down. A lot of recreation there. Now, if you say, I don't have the money, I cannot go on a vacation, it's too expensive, there is an alternative to a vacation. It's called a staycation. You stay at home, you don't go anywhere, you don't go to work. In fact, you can put the padlock of your gate at the back of the gate outside if you live in Nigeria, where we gate everywhere. Everywhere is gated for security reasons. Put the padlock outside so people don't even think that you're indoors. For one whole week, you're there, you switch off your phones, and you relax. You just do some exercises indoors, you sleep, you eat, you unwind, you do relaxing things, you read the book, you watch movies with your family indoors, okay? That is a staycation. You can incorporate all of these things if you have not been doing it. And the most important one, the most critical one, if you've not done it, is a relationship with God. You can't afford to travel through 2023 and beyond in particular. It was a risk you took in previous years that you didn't travel with Jesus Christ. Now, from now onward, you can't afford not to have Jesus in your boat, not to have Jesus on your trip, okay? You need him more than ever before. So if you have not added faith in God to the plus side of things, this is the right time to do so. Receive Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. He will make all the difference. He makes the journey very smooth and successful. Of course, there could be bumps. It could be bumpy here and there, but you are relaxed because the peace of God that passes understanding possesses your soul, and it gives you that assurance and that peace, that guarantee that all will be well, irrespective of what is happening in the environment. Glory be to God. These are some of the tips I want to leave with you in 2023 before we now continue our conversation on female infertility. Now, so where we signed off last week, I can actually say last year, where we signed off in 2022, last Monday, December 26, 2022, was that the fertility issue in a woman is a head-to-toe affair. There are things in the head, there are things in the neck, there are things in the body that can influence a woman's fertility. We have examined the things in the head and in the neck, and we started talking about things in the torso, T-O-R-S-O, the torso, okay, the main trunk of the body, the things in there. And we dealt with one of them extensively, and that is hormones or hormonal imbalance. When there is imbalance in hormones, prolactin imbalance, progesterone imbalance, estrogen imbalance, FSH imbalance, LH imbalance, testosterone imbalance, all of these can influence a couple's fertility. Now we're going to go to a second factor in the body of a woman, in the torso of a woman, that can also have implications for her fertility potential, and that is what I call ovarian factors. And we'll be talking about polycystic ovarian syndrome, or POS, which is one of those things where there are a lot of, poly means many, and then cystic refers to cysts. A cyst is a sac that is filled with fluid. A fluid-filled sac, that is a cyst. And so polycystic means many sacs that are filled with fluid in the ovary, dotted all over the place. Now, the solution to that, primarily, is to clean up your diet and balance your hormones using certain supplements. If anybody has POS, I would say stop eating any food that can bring in xenoestrogen. Processed meats, corned beef, sausage, bacon, hot dog, ham, take all of those things out. Then animal products that are produced with hormones, either poultry products or red meat products produced with hormones, cow milk produced with hormones, anything that can disrupt your hormones, go off them and start eating particularly hormone balancing foods. I shared avocado pear, tiger nut milk with you in the last episode. Now, you can also add cruciferous vegetables, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. These have certain factors that can actually help in regulating your hormones. They have things like indole 3-carbinol, okay, that can help to balance your hormones. And then you can use supplements. Supplements like balanced woman cream, like wild yam, like chaste berries. These are all food items that can help balance your hormone. Once your hormones are balanced, you see that all those cysts, ovarian cysts, polycystic ovarian syndrome, they will all begin to disappear. They begin to rupture and clear out of the way. I have seen several young ladies who had POS or ovarian cysts, and they wanted to slit them for surgery. And I said, hey, just give me 6 weeks. Let me put together a dietary plan for you and follow this dietary plan for 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, go back and you do your abdominopelvic sonography scan of the abdomen and the pelvis, and let them see whether the cysts are still there or not. Another ovarian factor is early menopause, okay? And once a woman goes into early menopause, that can affect her fertility potential. Of course, a lot of divine intervention, prompt medical attention, prayer, dietary changes can also help in that regard. So we've looked at hormonal profile, we've looked at ovarian factors. The third factor in the third show we'll be looking at is what we call tubal or peritoneal factors. One of them will be like endometriosis, which is an aberration. The endometrial cells in the inner lining, the wall of the womb, can actually spill and come to the outside of the womb, and then that can cause a lot of discomfort and pain during menstruation for a woman. That's endometriosis. Now, Dr. John McDougall is one of my favorite, medical doctors when it comes to wellness. And he comments in one of his newsletters as follows, and I quote him. He says, every scientist and doctor agrees that the cause and course, that is the C-A-U-S-E and the C-O-U-R-S-E, the cause and the curse of endometriosis involves female reproductive hormones. However, few of these experts know about the connection between hormones, endometriosis, and diet, but they should. Studies of populations of women show the risk of developing endometriosis is much higher with the consumption of red meat and beef and much lower with consumption of vegetables and fruits. A similar dietary connection is found with other diseases of the female reproductive organs, including uterine fibroids, ovarian cysts, and cancers of the uterus, of the endometrium, and cancers of the ovary. Unquote, by Dr. John McDougall. So, what is the solution when there's endometriosis? Now, there is a particular herbal remedy that I normally recommend. It's called No-Xeno, N-O-X-E-N-O. It used to be called endometriosis, but they rebranded it as No-Xeno. In other words, no xenoestrogen. It's a supplement, a herbal preparation in tincture form. And it actually has been very useful for those who have used it. Of course, you can also have dietary adjustment, and then you do the avocado, the tiger nut thing, and all of that. And of course, prayer. That helps a lot in addressing endometriosis. And then another problem in the that factor, the tubal factor, the peritoneal factor, is implantation failure. Some women actually ovulate. Their husbands also produce virile sperms, and then the sperms are able to swim into the fallopian tube to fertilize the egg, and then the fertilized egg descends into the womb, and unfortunately, it does not successfully implant. So there is implantation failure. The woman may not even realize that a fertilized egg has just been flushed out of her womb because she never sensed that she was pregnant because of implantation failure. There are many women who are not able to achieve pregnancy because of implantation failure. And one of my mentors, Dr. Mike Oye, who holds a PhD degree in agricultural science and specializing in taxonomy in particular, he was the one who told me that there are certain food items that some women can eat can cause implantation failure. Implantation failure. And one of them is in the hibiscus family, hibiscus flower tea and all the other products in the hibiscus family. So if a woman is attempting to get pregnant, my personal suggestion is she should avoid taking hibiscus flower products, hibiscus flower tea, or what we popularly call zobo. That's another one. Hibiscus flower tea is different from zobo. They are two different things, but they all come from the same hibiscus flower family. Okay, so that is that. There are a few other things that may result in implantation failure as well. I believe that chronic or acute stress can also cause implantation failure in a woman. Of course, hormonal imbalance can also affect that along the way. So once you deal with implantation failure, then that means that the fertilized egg can be successfully implanted and carried through the 9 months until delivery time. We're going to go on a short break. When I come back, we will continue with this discussion of the issues in the torso that can have implications for a woman's fertility potential. This has been Exposé with Tony Akinyemi. Don't forget that what we need is not more medication, but more education. For the best prescription is knowledge. To be informed is to be transformed. To be uninformed is to be deformed. Okay, I'll be back very shortly. Don't go away.
You said you are going to do this and this and this through my life. They are not yet done, so it's not time. And the sickness that seems was going to kill me will just disappear. But if you do not engage your assignment, what will you tell God?
So the things you do triggers off something in heaven, and God responds to the things you do.
So there are things that if God forgets, he becomes unrighteous. And God says, look, I'm too holy to become unrighteous.
Welcome back. This is Exposé with Tony Akinyemi, brought to you on Facebook and YouTube simultaneously, 8 p.m. Nigerian time or West African time. We are looking at factors that influence a woman's fertility from head to toe. In the head, we have looked at some factors. In the neck, we have looked at some factors. Now we are looking at the torso, the trunk of the body. And we have looked at 3 factors so far. I'm moving on to the 4th factor now that can influence a woman's fertility potential. And that's what doctors usually refer to as PID, or pelvic inflammatory disease. Now, usually, PID is caused by urinary tract infections. Now, more than 60% of women experience a urinary tract infection sometime during their lives. So what is the solution? It could be bacterial infection, it could be fungal infection, it could be viral infection. My take is that prevention is the best. Whatever steps you can take, whatever measures you can put in place to prevent infection in the first place. But no matter how hard we try, despite our best efforts, it's still possible to, get these toilet infections because, you see, these are organisms you can't see with your eyes, but they're there. Now, Once there is infection detected, you can detect that through different ways. You can do urinalysis with urine culture or different types of tests that your doctor can recommend to find out whether you have this UTI or not. Now, once you detect an infection, please treat it promptly, both for the man and the woman. You can't treat the woman alone and leave the man. The man will keep reinfecting the woman. So if a woman detects infection, she and her husband must be treated together. Prompt medical attention. You also need to change your diet because certain foods actually feed infection. If you take refined sugar, soft drinks, alcoholic beverages, even very sweet fruits. When you have fungal infection, for example, Candida albicans, for example, you want to avoid very sweet fruits like pineapple and what have you, because sugar, whether it is refined sugar or fructose, they actually feed these infections. So you stay away from sweet things during the treatment. And you can use either pharmaceutical antibiotics, which is not my first choice, but sometimes it could be necessary to do that. But my first choice is to use natural substances to address UTI, whether they are bacterial infection or fungal infection. Now, for bacterial infections, I have found cranberry works very well. Cranberry, garlic, and immune-boosting substances like echinacea, golden seal, or ganoderma mushrooms, and what have you, to upregulate your immunity. So cranberry, not cranberry juice. Cranberry juice is too diluted to have any effect. Concentrated cranberry fruit, if you have real cranberry fruit you can eat, that's fine. If not, then you can get the capsules in the form of supplements and take that, and that helps a lot. I also believe in prayer as a solution to dealing with these conditions. Now, the fifth thing in the torso of a woman that can impact on her fertility are uterine fibroids. Uterine fibroids. These are benign tumors. I normally classify fibroids into two categories. I call them troublesome fibroids and non-troublesome fibroids. So which one is troublesome, which one is non-troublesome? I consider fibroid tumors as troublesome when they affect a woman's ability to conceive. They are not allowing that woman to get pregnant or to carry her pregnancy through because the fibroid is occupying all the space in the womb. So there's no space for the baby to develop. Then that fibroid is a troublesome one. If the fibroid is so big that it makes a woman look like she's 7 months pregnant when she's actually not pregnant, that could be very embarrassing, socially speaking. That's a troublesome fibroid. If the fibroid is located along the pathway of where rich blood vessels are lined up in the womb, and that is now affecting the bleeding during menstruation, and the woman is having very heavy bleeding and blood clots during menstruation, that can make a woman to become anemic, and that can also cause cardiac distress when the woman is having hypermenorrhea, where she's bleeding and bleeding heavily, extensively, excessively due to the fibroid. Then that fibroid is troublesome. Sometimes the fibroid is so big, it is pressing on the bladder. And so the bladder fills up very quickly, and the woman keeps going to the toilet every hour. That is very disruptive. That's a troublesome fibroid. Sometimes the fibroid is compressing on the kidneys, the urethra, and other internal organs, and thereby impacting on those organs. That is a troublesome fibroid. Sometimes it causes lower abdominal pain. That is a troublesome fibroid. Okay, so any fibroid that is exerting such effect on a woman can be classified in my classification. That's not the conventional way they classify them. That is my own classification. I call them troublesome fibroid. The ones that are there, the woman may not even know that she has the fibroid, okay? But they are there nonetheless. Sometimes women discover that they have fibroids accidentally. Maybe there was something else they were looking for, and then they went to do this abdominal scan, and they suddenly stumbled upon the fibroid. That is a non-troublesome fibroid, okay? Now, there are different ways to address fibroid depending on whether it is troublesome or non-troublesome, and then the age of the woman, or whether or not the woman is looking for the fruit of the womb. These are the factors I put into consideration before making my recommendations to women. Of course, technically, scientists categorize fibroids in different ways, whether it is inside the womb or outside the womb or embedded into the wall of the uterus. So those are the different ways, whether it is intramural, extramural, or whatever different technical names they use for that. All right, so once a woman comes forward with fibroid, I ask all these questions. How old are you? Are you still hoping to have children or not? Is it troublesome? Is it making you bleed excessively? Is it making your tummy abnormally bulgy and embarrassing to you? Everybody thinks you are pregnant, and in Yoruba land they will say, "Eku ikunra, eku owo, how do they greet them now? Pregnant women in Yoruba land, eku ikunra, that kind of a situation. All right, and you're embarrassed, and you don't want that. So it depends on that, all those factors to determine the best way to go. Now, for young ladies, maybe they're in their 20s, and maybe they're not even married, and now they have fibroid. They come to me for consultation. I will normally want to advise that they stay on a diet plan with some supplements, and typically it takes approximately 7 months to 12 months, and all the fibroids will just melt away, degenerate, and get out of the way. Between 7 months and 12 months from my personal experience. But those that kind of recommendation I will give to a lady who is single, who is not married, who has the time on her hand to be able to address that, and who is ready to be compliant. Okay, but if another woman comes to see me with fibroid and she is 42, she wants to have a baby, and the fibroid is the reason for her not being able to have a baby, I would just tell her, please go and see your gynecologist right away. Let them, carry out surgery and just get out the fibroid once and for all. In one day, the fibroid is out of your system. And then once you heal from the surgery, let's talk. Then I can now design a diet plan for such a woman so that the fibroid does not grow back. Because fibroids have a tendency to grow back, okay? Once they are taken out of the way. It's a matter of 1 year to 2 years. It will grow back again. If you continue your same diet and lifestyle, the same diet and lifestyle, it will grow back again. So after you have surgically removed the fibroid, then we design a dietary plan, a supplement plan for you, and that helps in balancing your hormones, in reprogramming and resetting your body and making the environment of your body, the body terrain, to become hostile to the growth of tumors. And so fibroid doesn't grow up again. So eating a proper diet is very much important. Then I recommend that juicing, green vegetables in particular, mixed with carrot juice is also very key. You need to get a juicer, a very good juicer, either the slow juicer called Shine juicer, or Solo Star juicer, or Tri-Best juicer. Those are very wonderful juicers. You need to own one in your home. Everybody needs to, not just those who are dealing with fibroid. It should be part of our health investment. In fact, I believe you should buy your juicer before you buy your television set. Then you need to ingest a lot of iodine-rich foods, or take an iodine supplement. There are foods that are high in iodine. Time will not permit me to list them. Especially sea vegetables, chlorella, spirulina, blue-green algae, and what have you. And then there are fruits like grapes, like onions, like garlic, like tomato, like pineapple. All of them can concentrate iodine, but they have to be grown on an iodine-rich soil for them to suck up the iodine and store it in their fruits. So if the soil on which these fruits are grown lacks iodine, then there's nothing to concentrate in their fruits. So in that case, you need to get an iodine supplement, either kelp or triple iodine complex or iodoral or energy iodine or any of those supplements that are high in iodine. Okay, then anti-inflammatory herbs like turmeric, very important. Then proteolytic enzymes like serrapeptase, then omega-3 oil like fish oil, cod liver oil, krill oil, hemp seed oil, flaxseed oil. All of these are omega-3 oil, and they can help in reducing inflammation in the body and shrinking fibroids. They also block the tumor from growing new blood vessels. It's called an anti-angiogenic effect. There's a process where tumors grow new blood vessels so they can suck nutrients from different directions to grow bigger. That process of growing new blood vessels is called angiogenesis. The process of growing new blood vessels by a tumor or any part of the body for that matter is called angiogenesis. You want to block that process. And there are certain foods that will block that process. Flaxseed oil is one of them. Okay? And then there is shark liver oil and shark cartilage. They all have anti-angiogenic effect. They block the tumor from growing new blood vessels. And once they don't grow new blood vessels, they cannot be sucking nutrients to grow voraciously. Nutrients voraciously to grow big. So that way, you indirectly inhibit availability of fuel to grow the tumors. And then you can use herbal preparations and also avoid xenoestrogen, such as plastic, pesticides, and what have you. Then avoid excess, phytoestrogen even. There are certain things in soy products, organic soy products, not GMO products, not GMO soy, that are very good, such as soy isoflavones and what have you, which is very, very important. But then there are other anti-nutrients that are found particularly in GMO soy that I would say refrain from taking those. Then avoid sugar, avoid white flour products, avoid cow milk, avoid trans fat such as margarine, lard, and shortening. Avoid refined salt and use sea salt and Himalayan salt and food additives such as food colors, artificial flavors and all of that. And food preservatives, chemical preservatives in particular. And then because fat cells produce estrogen, reaching and maintaining your ideal body weight is essential to addressing chronic estrogen dominance that also affects fibroid in the womb. One of the things that make fibroid to grow in the womb really is because, number one, some ladies are eating foods that are creating excess estrogen, xenoestrogen, synthetic estrogen, bombarding their body with estrogen. And estrogen dominance serves as a fertilizer to fertilize fibroid. The second side of it is that they are eating a diet that is low in iodine. Iodine is one of the trace minerals that are nutrients. In the periodic table, in your O-level chemistry, if you remember that, the periodic table, group 7 on the periodic table is called the halogens. That's why you have iodine, fluorine, bromine, chlorine. All those that end up in, they are the halogens. The only one of them that is really an essential nutrient is iodine. All the other ones are somehow toxic to the body. So when a woman in particular is low on iodine in their diet, what that does is that, you see, in the womb of a woman, there are receptor sites. Imagine as a layman, a receptor site as an electrical socket where you can plug your fan, you can plug your phone, you can plug your laptop. Different things can be plugged to the same socket. So those sockets in the womb are called receptors. Now, different things can be connected to the receptors. In technical language, scientifically, we call it binding. So different things can bind to receptor sites, all right? So estrogen can bind to estrogen receptor sites. The same estrogen receptor sites where estrogen binds to, the socket that estrogen connects to in the womb, is the same receptor that iodine also binds to. So iodine and estrogen use exactly the same socket or the same receptors in the womb. So I'm just going to use an arbitrary figure now, okay, just to illustrate and to explain. Let's assume that there are 10 sockets in the womb to plug things to. Normally, the 10 sockets are supposed to be shared between estrogen and iodine. So if a woman has a lot of iodine in her diet, iodine will find its way into the womb and occupy 5 of those sockets. Estrogen will now occupy the remaining 5 of the sockets. So then there is a balance. There is enough estrogen in the womb, not too much estrogen in the womb, because estrogen is occupying only half of those sockets or those receptor sites. The other half has been taken over by iodine. Now imagine if a woman's diet is low in iodine. What do you think will happen? There will be, let's say iodine took only 1 out of the 10 sockets, because that's the amount of iodine available in the woman's diet. It's just enough to bind to 1 socket. So there are 9 sockets available now. what happens? And there's plenty of estrogen in the body of that woman. The estrogen will just fill all the 9 sockets, bind to all the 9 remaining sockets. So what happens? You have more than the amount of estrogen that is needed to be present in the womb at that material time. Instead of 5 sockets occupied, 9 sockets are now occupied. That is what we call estrogen dominance. There's too much estrogen. Now, that too much estrogen in the womb will now fertilize the womb and make it to start growing fibroid tumor. Make sense? Now, so if you want to regulate the amount of estrogen binding to the receptors in the womb, you flood the body with iodine. So iodine takes its rightful place, occupies the number of sockets, 50%, so to speak. I'm just using arbitrary numbers, okay? Just to illustrate, to make it very simple, simplify it for us to understand. So once iodine occupies all the sockets it should occupy, there will be only enough socket available for estrogen. So there's not too much estrogen present in the womb per time. And once just the amount of estrogen needed in the womb is present, fibroid does not grow. So that's why avoiding xenoestrogen or even phytoestrogen and using iodine-rich vegetables is one of the strategies for shrinking fibroid or preventing fibroid growth. And then, of course, preventing inflammation, preventing angiogenesis, the growth of new blood vessels, is part and parcel of the whole process of dealing with fibroid. So it's a multi-pronged approach. So you address estrogen dominance by making a conscious and consistent effort, to manage your emotional stressors as well. Now, so if your fibroid, however, is troublesome, I gave a description of what a troublesome fibroid is, then consider surgery. That may be your fastest route. The 6th problem in the torso of a woman that can influence her fertility is tubal blockage. Tubal blockage. That is the blockage of her fallopian tubes. Now, there are 2 fallopian tubes normally in a woman, one connecting the right ovary to the womb, the other one connecting the left ovary to the womb. It's like a funnel, and the ovary is on top of the funnel. So when the egg drops, when the woman ovulates, it drops into the funnel of the fallopian tube, and then it travels down the fallopian tube. Then the sperm of the husband travels up the fallopian tube. The 2 of them will meet in the fallopian tube, and then fertilization takes place, and the fertilized egg descends into the womb to be implanted. Now, if the fallopian tubes are blocked, then fertilization cannot take place because the egg and the sperm cannot meet. So the tubal blockage can be unilateral or bilateral. Unilateral means one of them is blocked. The other one is patent. Patent means it's open, okay? Bilateral blockage means both tubes are blocked. In that case, the tubes have to open for fertilization or pregnancy to take place. On the other hand, the tube can be bypassed. When they extract the egg from the woman, collect sperm from the husband, do in vitro fertilization, outside the body fertilization in a test tube, and then plant it back into the woman. That's IVF. Otherwise, the tubes must open, and usually what causes tubal blockage is either infection or scar tissues developing as a result of surgical intervention, surgeries that the woman had had in the past. It can develop things like Asherman syndrome, where scar tissues are developed and different parts of the body are all gumming together internally. Asherman syndrome. Okay, so tubal blockage. When a woman has tubal blockage, how do you then open up the tubes? Now, first of all, how do you know if a woman has tubal blockage? There is a test they call HSG that they conduct in hospitals, to find out whether the tubes are open or blocked. Very, very painful, very, very tortuous. I normally don't send my clients for HSG because I know how tortuous, how painful it can be. I just assume that, okay, let's assume that your tubes are blocked, and let's do something to unblock them. The good thing is that what we do to unblock the tubes, even if your tubes are not blocked, that thing we do will not harm you in any way. So it is safe to assume that there could be tubal blockage. And so what do? Because tubal blockages are typically caused by infections, and infections cause the mucus and things that plug or block the tubes. So we first of all start addressing bacterial infection with cranberry and D-mannose and the rest of that. And then we have a cocktail for dealing with fungal infections, okay? Things like like olive leaf extract, like caprylic acid, like L-glutamine, and so on and so forth. Now, that cocktail will help to deal with fungal infection. And then we use proteolytic enzymes like bromelain from pineapple, papain from pawpaw, or serrapeptase that is made from yeast, or serrazymes, or serraflazymes, different types of proteolytic enzymes. These are protein digesting enzymes. They are enzymes. I mean, you use enzymes day to day in your various body activities. So we administer all of them. We clear bacterial infection, we clear fungal infection. We administer these proteolytic enzymes. You take them on an empty stomach at least 1 hour before a meal so that there is no food in your stomach for the enzymes to digest. So the enzymes are actually absorbed into your bloodstream. They start circulating around your body. So anywhere there is scar tissue or there is any blockage, the enzymes will start digesting them out of the way. That's how to open up the tubes. So once the tubes are open, you have overcome tuber blockage, whether unilateral or bilateral. And once the tubes are open, another hurdle has been crossed. Again, you cross the 2 hurdles in the head, you cross the hurdle in the neck. Now we are crossing the hurdles in the torso, and we have looked at 6 different hurdles that have been scaled right now. The 6th one being tuber blockage. Our time is up. I can't complete everything in the torso today. In the next episode, by the special grace of God, God's Spirit in our lives, we'll be here again to talk about other things in the torso that can be impacting on a woman's fertility potential. Once again, I wish you a very happy new year. God bless you and enjoy the rest of the week. In Jesus' name, amen.
You said you are going to do this and this and this through my life. They are not yet done, so it's not time. And the sickness that seems was going to kill me will just disappear. But if you do not engage your assignment, what will you tell God?
So the things you do triggers off something in heaven, and God responds to the things you do.
So there are things that if God forgets, he becomes unrighteous. And God says, look, I'm too holy to become unrighteous.